Today, I'm going to talk about my DNA health test, which I took as a result of my seeing a functional medicine doctor, which I wanted to know whether there are any natural means by which I can lower my blood pressure. And this DNA test is different from other DNA tests where you're trying to find out what your ancestral line is. It's also different from the test where you want to know whether there is a biological relationship between siblings or whether a parent is actually your parent or not. So it's completely different from that. This one actually looks into various traits that determine whether you have a particular health condition. It also looks into things like allergies and food sensitivities. So it's quite an interesting report. This report is about 31 pages long. As such, I'm going to go over it with you in a number of videos, probably about 5 or 6 videos or shorter. I'm not too sure, but we'll take it as it goes. So this test costs about 210 British pounds, which is about 250 US dollars. When you order the test, it's sent to you within a couple of days and you get a template and you're supposed to prick your finger. Then you drop your blood on the template that has 5 circles. Those circles on that template is what you send back to the company. They then analyze it and they should get results to you back within 3 to 4 weeks. One major thing that I like about this DNA health test is the recommendations that come back as a result of analyzing your DNA is personalized to you. So when you get the results for yourself, it would actually be different from the results that somebody else would get. I think this is the way medicine is going for the future. When you look at what functional medicine is doing, functional medicine is about providing personalized healthcare for the individual, because we are all individuals and you cannot use a form of medication to treat a general population, because we all respond differently to that medication as a result of our physiology, our genetic makeup, etc. So I'm going to take you through the first part of this test. I hope you find it very interesting. It's something that I would recommend for everyone to take, and as I get more information, I'll try and help you to navigate the path to be able to take this test. So let's get into this test. Under the introduction, from your DNA sample, we have used a process called polymerase chain reaction, PCR, which copies the DNA of your genes many times over so that we can generate sufficient quantities to analyze your genetic material. We then identify unique DNA sequences in some of your genes. Certain changes, polymorphisms, in these genes have been studied in detail with evidence that correlates to these polymorphisms with an individual's risk of developing certain chronic disease conditions or altered metabolic processes. Having identified the presence or absence of these polymorphisms, we are able to qualitatively assess particular areas of health risk related to the specific genes. To make a holistic assessment of health risks, environmental factors, which includes diet and lifestyle, need to be considered in conjunction with the accompanying genetic profile. So when it talks about polymorphisms, it's looking at various traits that are available within a particular gene. For example, when it comes to polymorphism, a particular gene can have a recessive and a dominant trait to it. So if you look at a bird that is multicolored, assuming it's got green, black, and yellow on it, in passing the genes onto its offspring, it might only pass 2 dominant colors and 1 recessive color, or it might pass on 2 dominant colors and 1 recessive one. So it's the traits that are within your gene that are passed on that it's referring to when it's talking about polymorphism. How to read your results. It says you will find your genetic results in the following pages. On the left side, you would see the gene name and description. On the right side, you would find specific result and explanation of the results, associated risks, and diet and lifestyle recommendations. The impacts can be identified by the following. So it could have no impact at all. It could have a low impact, it could have a moderate impact, it could have a high impact, or it could have a beneficial impact. I'll quickly jump to where that is explained, and that might come up in the next video. So you can see here the biological area and the gene name and the genetic variation of that gene, the variation that I carry in my genes, the impact of that variation that I carry. So here is high impact, and under here it's medium impact, and the top one, LPL, is no impact at all. That would be explained further in the next video. So if you're interested in seeing the genetic variation that have a high impact on me, why not watch the next video that is coming up. Back to where we were before, we then move over to the priority table. Under the priority table, it says each biological area has been allocated a priority rating of either low, medium, or high priority in order for you to understand where your focus areas should be. Based on the genes tested, a low priority biological area means that there is no need for increased support compared to standard health recommendations. A moderate or high priority biological area means that the particular area would require increased support with regards to appropriate diet, lifestyle, nutraceutical interventions to offset the imbalances in the pathway caused by the genetic variants you carry. So let's look at those biological areas that I need to focus on. So the first one is lipid metabolism, which is a high priority. Methylation is a low priority. Detoxification is a low priority. Inflammation is a high priority. Most people who have high blood pressure also have high blood pressure as a result of inflammation in the body. So high blood pressure is not the disease in itself, it's a manifestation of something else that is going on in the body. We also have oxidative stress, which is of a moderate priority. Bone health is of a low priority. Insulin sensitivity, which is also of a moderate priority. On the next page, we have a report summary that describes what to do and what to avoid under these high priority areas. So under lipid metabolism, it says certain genes influence the LDL bad and HDL good cholesterol levels. High levels of LDL cholesterol are associated with a high risk of heart disease. And so this is a high priority for me. Under this, I have a list of things that I need to do and a list of things that I need to avoid. So if you want to read it, why don't you hit the pause button now and take a quick read. Under inflammation, it says an increasing number of disorders such as obesity, heart disease, arthritis, and diabetes have been associated with chronic low-grade inflammation, which is influenced by the genes that I carry. carry. This is another area of high priority for me. Under that, I have a list of do's and a list of things that I need to avoid. Again, if you want to read it, why not hit the pause button now. Moving on to the next page, it talks about food responsiveness summary. The first one is the polyunsaturated fatty acids, also known as PUFA metabolism. Polyunsaturated fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6, play very important roles in brain function, mood regulation, and immunity. The balance of these fats is determined by dietary intake as well as our genetic makeup. So another area of high priority for me, and under the do and avoid list, you can see it here, and if you want to read it, hit the pause button on this video to have a read. Moving on to salt sensitivity. It says salt sensitivity to a large extent is genetically determined. The gene variants tested in this section give an insight into your body's responsiveness to salt intake and whether this might spike your blood pressure levels. Another area of high priority, if you're interested in reading how to control salt in terms of do's and avoid, hit the pause button now. Moving over to lactose intolerance. This is an area I didn't know I had because I've always taken milk since I was a baby. Under that, it says adult lactose deficiency or lactose intolerance is a common condition where there is a decrease in the ability to produce the enzyme responsible for breaking down lactose, the sugar found in dairy. After ingestion of milk or other dairy products, individuals might experience abdominal cramps, bloating, distension, flatulence, or diarrhea. And it's something that I never experienced. But that's not to say I am not lactose intolerant. It might be responsible for spiking my blood pressure, and as a result, me not knowing it. So what I've done now is I've cut out milk at the moment, and I'm taking milk alternatives in the form of almond milk with no sugars. So pause here if you want to see a list of do's and avoid to overcome lactose intolerance. Moving over to vitamin metabolism summary. I have 2 increased requirements in this area, and it's for vitamin D and vitamin B12. Under here, I have a list of what I need to add to my diet to increase my vitamin D and also my vitamin B. If you remember in the video that I did on my cardio check, it said that my homocysteine levels are quite high, and it's vitamin B12 that is responsible for that, because it says here vitamin B12 is an essential nutrient for the brain and neural functioning, as well as many metabolic processes including homocysteine metabolism. These 2 tests were conducted independently, and they came back. One verified that my homocysteine levels were quite high, and this genetic test here is saying that I need to increase my requirement. That gives me a lot of confidence that there is consistency between what I did in my blood test and my DNA test that is being returned. So in the next video, I would take you through the biological areas and the genes and genetic variations that are responsible for those biological areas and the impact or overall impact that it could be having on my health. So I hope you will join me in the next video, and it would also give you an insight into why it's important that you take a similar test. So click on the screen to watch the video about my cardio check. To reduce your blood pressure, click on the like and subscribe button, as it goes a long way to help this channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.